On to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid-lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings broadcast. And you know what? I am so excited about the announcement tonight that I already kind of slipped it inadvertently on my starting logo. Oh my gosh, I've been so discombobulated. I'm just working really hard to get this thing done, and I am so excited. I can't tell you how much I've been working with some of the people that are involved in this. I am just ecstatic over what's happening. I am so excited. You can't even know what kind of time frame. And I'm not even the longest person who's been thinking of this and working on this. I've been teasing it over the last couple of months. The day has finally come. It's finally here, and I am just ecstatic over it. But before I get to that, I need to tell you something. You have done a fabulous job. I have picked up so many subscribers on my Rumble channel. I've picked up a couple people in YouTube, but nothing really major. I mean, I've seen some come and go. I'm hoping that what that is somebody goes into YouTube, hears me talking about Rumble, and they switch over to Rumble. But that being said, Rumble subscribers, thank you. I appreciate all of you, and anyone who wants to listen to just the audio portion of this program can also pick up the recordings and the live stream on Spreaker, but the recordings on just about any place that you get your podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, some of the other more unknown ones that are out there. I am everywhere that I can possibly be at this time. I am looking to expand. And that's a little clue about what I'm talking about for a little bit later. But first, we have to do this because of the fact that, I made a promise to these people. I did. I made a promise to them. So we're going to go ahead and break on into this. You know that I'm an American. I'm a proud American. I am a strong advocate for the Constitution, and that is who we've got tonight. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence by the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide the tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, theamericanview.com/# or #, whichever way you want to call it, Whiskey Musings, all lowercase, all one word, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is theamericanview, all lowercase, all one word, .com / #Whiskey Musings to get great content, to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's theamericanview.com / #Whiskey Musings. Go check them out today. And I thank them for allowing me to become an affiliate. It is very important that we learn about our founding documents because it's not being It honestly is not being taught in today's schools, at least not in the way that we all know it and deal with it in that particular sense. So, what is the big news? Well, you know what? I got one more thing that I have to do, and that is we need to go into today's On This Day in American History. And once again, folks, we are reading from the American Patriots Almanac. It is the almanac for American history. And I got to get my old man glasses on here. Give me just a second. And today's date is February 5th, of course. And, it's ironic we're talking about the Battle Hymn of the Republic for tonight. So Julia Ward Howe, a writer, lecturer, and anti-slavery reformer, was visiting a Union Army camp near Washington, D.C. during the Civil War when she heard soldiers singing the song John Brown's Body, which began with the words, "John Brown's body lies a-smoldering in the grave." A clergyman who accompanied her suggested that she write new lyrics to the tune. Howe went back to the Willard Hotel in Washington, and then, as she told it, "I went to bed and slept as usual, but awoke the next morning in the gray of the early dawn, and to my astonishment found that the wished-for lines were arranging themselves in my brain. I lay quite still until the last verse had compiled itself in my thoughts, then hastily arose, searched for an old sheet of paper and an old stub of a pen, which I had had the night before, and began to scrawl the lines almost without looking." Howe submitted her verses, which began, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored," to the Atlantic Monthly, which accepted them and paid her a fee of $4. The magazine printed the lyrics on the first page of its February 1862 issue under the title Battle Hymn of the Republic. The song quickly became a favorite of the Union Army. In the decades since, in times of war and peace, it has remained one of America's most loved hymns. And that is today's On This Day in American History. I got to figure out where to put this, because I have so many different things going on. All right. So the next thing I want to tell you is tonight I am actually drinking a different vintage. It is still an Irish whiskey, only because, that's just the way I roll. But this was actually recommended to me by somebody on my social media feeds. They threw it out there and said, "Hey, why don't you try this?" So I am trying Redbreast single pot still Irish whiskey. It is the 12-year-old. And I'm going to admit something. I mistakenly told my wife that the logo was a red rooster, and actually it's not. It's some other bird. Let's see if I can get it close enough. Maybe it'll focus. Anyway, it's some other bird, and it's got a red breast on it. I'm not an ornithologist, I think is what they're called, or an aviary. I don't know. Anyway. So it's a red-breasted bird, but the 12-year-old, and again, like I've told you in the past, my favorite is the Black Barrel of Jameson, the Black Barrel version, and that's my favorite. But this one actually is really, really good, and I've enjoyed like the Chivas Regal 18-year-old. I still have a bottle of that. I picked that up for just right around Christmas and was drinking that for one of our shows. But tonight's the Redbreast 12-year-old. So now, let's get to the big news. I've teased it before. I teased it. I put it on the front logo. I didn't mean to. I was actually doing that for another purpose, but it ended up slipping in there. For the last, I'll say 2 to 3 years, somewhere in there. My memory escapes me as to exactly when I got pulled in on this. But for my partner in crime, the CEO and the founder of this particular venture, he has been thinking of this for many, many, many years. And he has wanted to do this. He is a big name, I would consider, in independent radio. He has got a passion for the blues, especially, but also all kind of Americana class of music. And he got together with me, and he's been working through regular radio for he's been in the radio and music industry for over 30 years. He had a local show here on a couple independent radio stations here, and then branched out into the digital radio scene, which is what we know by as internet radio. He decided at that point that he wanted to unfortunately, his provider that he was working with at the time, they decided to go their own way, their own separate ways. And he's been trying to figure out how he can do things his way, because, us Americans, we just want to do it our way. I mean, there's a way, and then there's our way, and that's the way that we want it to be. And so he reached out to me a couple of years ago, and we've been hatching this scheme for a little while. I've sort of, talked about it in the broadest abstract sense. But this week, starting this Monday, will be what I would consider the soft launch of the brand new digital radio station called True Grit Radio Network. True Grit Radio Network. TGRN is the call sign, the call letters for it. And let me explain just a little bit about what TGRN actually is. TGRN is a mixture of Americana. It is a mixture of blues, country, and southern rock. And we're not talking necessarily about like the pop rock that you hear on a lot of radio stations, or the pop country that you hear on a lot of country radio stations today. This is roots radio, deep, authentic roots radio. It is designed and specifically will cater to the individual artists who are either just not quite there yet, are on the cusp of breaking out into the music scene, getting hired by some of the big labels. But we're getting that market, we're targeting that market that's just underneath the surface. The artists that maybe you don't hear about, you definitely don't hear them playing on the radio. But at the same time, we're also going to be mixing in some of the authentic sounds from yesterday, that the roots of the radio scene that brings it back into today's country. So some of the artists that you might hear, for in the country scene at least, from my perspective, is artists such as Creed Fisher or Mickey LaMantia, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. A couple of those types of people. There's oh my gosh, I can't even think of all the people that we are targeting in the country scene. My partner, and you may know him. He is Jonathan Oogie Richards. He had his own show for a while. It's called Mighty Mouth Blues. He is planning on bringing that back as soon as we can get all of the other things sort of worked out. But he is, he's been in the blues scene, so there's a lot of blues music that's going to be played on here, and also some new, I would consider sort of eclectic music, but it's really not. It's actually known as fusion, is the best way to put it, and it's a mixture of groundbreaking new ways of doing things, such as country rap as an example, but not like the country rap that you might be thinking of, but more of maybe, I'm going to consider it like the Upchurch or the Colt Ford style of rap, but country rap, sorry. But it's going to be a mix of all of these, and the programming that we've got going on, again, it's going to cater to the people, ideally to the people who have really grown roots within Americana's music systems. And that's what we're dealing with. That's what we want to try and bring to the table in a different mix of these kinds of music. And again, it's all kind of based around Americana. Now, the other thing too is we've got some DJs. We're still working on getting DJs and stuff on board. But that being said, we've got two fantastic blues DJs, well known in the industry. One of them is Jeff Hayes, and he comes from Austin, Texas, by way of Fargo, North Dakota. He has played and toured with all types of bands, but most notably Johnny Lang, the Johnny Lang Band, and I'm going to mess this up because it's all stuffed together in one word, but it's Bernard Allison Music, and he shared the stage with some of the most iconic blues artists and worked as a on-demand backup bass player. He is going to be headlining, he's going to be hosting a show on Wednesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. This is Central Time, called The Juke Joint. And let me tell you, I have listened to some of his stories, and it is just absolutely amazing what this man, his long and storied history, a part of the music scene, and especially in the blues. And he can bring you angles and tell you stories about the different types of music that he's going to be bringing to the table in his broadcast, in his episode. That being said, we also have another fantastic DJ. His name is Vinnie Marini, and if you've ever been over on Blog Talk Radio and listened to his show, Music on the Couch, he's bringing it exclusively to TGRN for Monday nights from basically 9 to midnight Eastern, which would be 6 to 9 Pacific time, Monday evenings, and he starts this Monday the 7th. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. This has been a long time coming, believe me. This last week and a half, I have been fervorously working with the DJs, trying to get them on board, get them on to the station, understand their how to tie in the technology to get this going. But what you can do as a part of our soft launch, we have an app. That's right, we have an app for both Android and for the iDevices. And what I would appreciate it is if you could go to either the Google Play Store or the iPhone Store, I can't even remember what it's called, but go to those two places and download the True Grit Radio Network app. This is an interactive app. It will allow you to chat with some of the DJs when they're live. You can chat with other users. We'll have polls, and eventually we'll have contests and things like that. So, understandably, this is the soft launch. So keep in mind, there might be a few changes and glitches along the way as we work out some of the kinks. And here in about 6 to 9 months, we'll do this really big, huge, massive launch. But we're planning on bringing you live shows, live feeds from on-site, remote locations, concerts, venues, things like that. It's just, for poor old John, it is an amazing thing that we are bringing his vision to fruition, and you can help support it by not only downloading the apps, but also listening to these artists and everything else. Get this stuff involved. As another part of the program, or a part of the overall breaking boundaries for authentic roots radio, that's one of our taglines. But the whole idea of the show, or of the radio station too, is again to start fostering some of those independent artists, those not quite yet in the primetime scene type of scenarios. And so one of the things that we're doing is in the overnight hours, John, who is our program manager, is allowing allowing new shows and everything else to come in and give some things a try. And this is the second biggest news of the night. He graciously has chosen to allow Whiskey Musings to go on True Grit Radio Network as it stands as the talk show to help grow not only the audience, but also to foster some more of the up and coming artists like myself. I've been doing this for it'll be 2 years in April, and so I am just pleased as punch that he has decided to allow me to go and have a radio broadcast. Now, there's things that I'm going to have to do that are totally different from the podcast. For one, I've got to get used to sending out call signs. For another, I'm going to have to get used to adding in some ad space. So I'm going to have to learn how to do basically what Mark K, for all of you Curator followers, what Mark K does on a daily basis. So this is going to be an interesting foray for me. It crosses over Saturday night, Sunday morning. It just depends on what time zone you're in. It's from midnight to 2 Eastern time, so it's 10 to midnight on the Pacific coast. And this is going to be awesome. I am trying to plan on having unique content just for the show, just for that show. And while I won't say that it's always going to be broadcasted live, I already have plans in my head to do live broadcasts on the TGRN network. And again, like I'm saying, don't worry about this. This is not going away. The podcast is not going away. I have already basically said I'm going to do a Dan Bongino. The podcast stays the same, but the radio show will be unique, exclusive content just for TGRN listeners. So I know it's a little bit late. I understand that in terms of, the timing and everything. I mean, that is, 10 to midnight. But it's going to help me develop my show, my abilities to do it on radio. And we already have in the pipeline, we've already discussed expansion opportunities. Once TGRN itself takes off, we've already discussed further expansion. So more news on that, more information on that, but that is the big announcement, the soft launch of True Grit Radio Network, which again is going to be authentic roots radio of Americana value. I mean, blues, country, and rock, they all have a very close, similar lineage coming from American artists and developers here in the U.S. And so that was the whole concept, the whole idea, the whole, we wanted to keep it that way, but we also want to make sure that we get to those artists who are, again, they're the up-and-comers, the ones that maybe you haven't heard about, but they're still packing the houses in the bars and some of the other venues in the space. So do me a favor, download it, check it out, do all of us a favor, listen to it. This is Americana. Can't get it any better than its finest. You know me, I'm American. I am an American patriot, and I love this whole idea. I've listened to a lot of the songs and everything that John's been loading in. It's going to be a great mix. I am so excited. I am so happy that this has finally come to fruition, and we are going live again Monday. Starting Monday is when we start it. Right now, all you're going to be hearing is a little heartbeat and an announcement saying that it's coming soon. But come Monday morning, midnight, Central Time, it's music and it's live. Maybe not live, it's recorded, but still, it'll be music, it'll be our programming, and it will be incredibly great. I hope you come along with us. I really do. Okay, now some of the adrenaline's coming down. I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. I'm good to go here. But that's the big announcement. Now, give me just a second. Got to get my whistle wet here. We'll take a moment, take a pause. And now for the second subject of the evening. I've never really talked about this on the program, And I'm going to go ahead and just throw it out there because of the fact that, I think we need to discuss it. I think we need to hear it. I've mentioned it as part of the Institute on the Constitution, but I'll be honest with you, I've gone through periods of time where I've often questioned, but this past week has been an incredible thrill ride for me. It has been, just one thing after another. Things have lined up perfectly. And it's just been an amazing ride so far. And I know that in terms of a roller coaster, I am just like starting up that hill. I'm getting up to the top and I can feel it just at the top, about ready to let me go and pop me over the top and get the entire thrill beneath it. And what I'm talking about is intervention by what essentially is a divine being. Let me tell you what I mean about this. So I was thinking about tonight's program. And, throughout the news stories and everything that we're hearing, it seems really oppressive. We've got a guy in the White House who honestly is no better than just a cooked potato. He can't even read clearly off of a teleprompter. We have a House of Representatives that are going after people for just expressing their First Amendment free speech rights in terms of the January 6th committee. We have, senators who are trying to get laws passed and things taken care of in terms of traditional American ways of doing business, in particular things like, taking out the filibuster because it happens to be something that is a barrier to them making changes, existential changes to our government system. They want to push bills through Congress, through both houses, like the Build Back Better Act. That'll do nothing but add a whole bunch of debt and increase our country's inflation rates and make it really, really hard on the middle class of the country. They are attacking. There's groups that are attacking in every way, shape, or form every foundational value that you can think of that has made America what it is. We're talking about, critical race theory in our schools. We're talking about mail-in voting to where fraud can be easily taken place. They're even talking about having illegals vote. And I've had a lot of shows that, especially here recently, that have discussed a lot of these topics and have pointed out that, this is not a process that we should be going down. These are not American values. These are not what our country, the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, this is not what we should be doing. And, unfortunately, it tends to get really oppressive when all you hear in the news is all of this negative energy and negative stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I've been, I go around on social media. I've been hanging out on Twitter quite a bit. And Twitter is literally a swirling mass of leftism. And, cancel culture is there. And you're talking about YouTube taking out people, other conservatives, such as, Dan Bongino and Mark Kay and some of these other conservative things. And they banned any videos showing the Freedom Convoy up in Canada. GoFundMe has gone, and initially all they did was they grabbed the almost $10 million worth of donations for the Freedom Convoy. And they originally had made a statement that they were going to take those funds and distribute them amongst, what did they call them? Worthy causes, with the discretion of the Freedom Convoy's organizers on the GoFundMe accounts. They have now since updated their website and have said that they will be passing out refunds for everybody that did it. But all of these things, all of this it feels like it's a massive amount of pressure to basically take what I would say are a lot of people's freedoms away, a lot of people's livelihoods, their feeling of life and liberty and freedom and American values, the American system of government, and tearing it all down. They're literally attempting to turn it into what essentially would be 1984. If you've read the book by George Orwell, there's a lot of similarities about that. They are attempting to break down our government structure in order to do what's called the Great Reset. And, you know, it seems like there's a lot out there, but I have to admit, this past week, I've had a lot of hope. I am filled with joy and hope. And the reason being is because I was thinking about what I was going to talk about tonight. I was thinking about this entire subject, and I'm like, you know what? I really would like to see or get some guidance that would show me, am I even on the right path? Should I even talk about this? And I ended up receiving an email from Mark K. And he has sent out to all the Catriots that are out there. He's calling it his conservative manifesto is what he's titled it. But it's more of just a guideline of, in his mind, like 7 or 8 topics. If you're a Catriot, you have got it. You've got to, at least you can go and download the, if you're part of the Catriot network, you can download a copy of it. It's PDF. And I read through that. And the funny thing is that while I was thinking about the topic tonight, that arrived in my inbox. And so then I continued. I was like, hey, I really need to talk a little bit about this, but I don't want to steal Mark's thunder. So I highly encourage, if you're not a Catriot already, go find the Mark K Show. I think it's at themarkkshow.com, and join the Catriots Network in order to get this document, this paper of his thoughts and things that we can do as conservatives to fight what is going on in our country today. And he's doing it in a lighthearted way. It's not a negative way, because he has a lot of fun on his shows. He does a lot of games and things like that, and it's a lot of fun to watch, believe me. He's got several thousands of people who listen and watch his show, either watch online or listen at the local radio stations that he broadcasts to. And so then the next thing that I thought about is, you know, what exactly embodies America? What is the one thing that I could bring up as a symbol of America, and not like your typical symbol of like the flag, because, you know, everybody knows this, the flag is the symbol for America, or, you know, maybe, you know, soldiers, because yeah, they're a symbol of America. But the one thing that I really thought of, the one iconic thing that really didn't last that long in history for a good majority. I mean, there's still some that exist today, I can tell you that much. But the one thing that as soon as somebody sees them or sees an image of them, the first thing they think of is America. And that's the American cowboy. And I thought about the American cowboy, and I was like, you know what? I did an episode talking about the American cowboy. I got to find that, because I got to be able to tie this in with some of my past episodes. And so I went to, you know, I jumped on YouTube, and I went and I didn't sign in as myself, but I went to the search bar and I just typed in Whiskey Musings in the search bar. And the first item that came up, other than the channel, but the first episode that came up was the exact episode that I discussed these two books. I talked about, in episode 32, Have We Lost the Cowboy? I talked about these books. This book here, called Cowboy Values, Recapturing What America Once Stood For, by James P. Owen. And he also wrote another book called Cowboy Ethics, What Wall Street Can Learn from the Code of the West. And, you know, I couldn't have planned that any more. So the only thing that I can think of is that something somewhere has decided that I need to discuss a little bit more about some of these things and about Americana and the icon that is the cowboy. I mean, when I was growing up, you had a whole bunch of iconic movies and TV shows. There was, Gunsmith, The Rifleman. As far as movies, there were all the spaghetti westerns that Clint Eastwood did. And then you could go a little bit farther back and do, John Wayne. John Wayne had the black and white movies, and then he had several of color movies when color started to become popular. And, the iconic idea of the cowboy was and is still to this day, it is an iconic image of what I would consider American values and American ethics and the American way, the American code. And do me a favor, if you get an opportunity, go back to episode 32. I did it back in December, I think it's December 5th of 2020. Go back to episode 32 and take a look at what I talk about. But as a part of this, I just want to bring up James Owen spent time with cowboys. He and the photographer that he used in one of his books, David Stocklein, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but anyway, they spent a lot of time with cowboys in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and they basically created what is called the Center for Cowboy Ethics and Leadership. And I believe it's cowboyethics.org is the website. But they do leadership training. They talk about cowboy leadership, cowboy ethics in life. And one of the things that really struck me about these books that really got me interested and into reading them was how they digested what is essentially an American code of ethics and integrity and values into what they called the Code of the West, 10 principles to live by. And these 10 principles, before I go and tell you the 10 principles, these 10 principles come from 7 core values that define America: courage, optimism, self-reliance, authenticity, honor, duty, and heart. And I go through every single one of these in episode 32. Oh, I forgot about that. Buddy on Rumble has popped up, Lonesome Dove. I totally forgot about that one. But these 7 core values, in their minds, in the embodiment of the cowboy, they define America. And I would have to agree with that. Because if you look throughout history, you can look at the courage of the first settlers that came here. They came across this grand ocean on a ship that was really, really small and tossed about by weather. They landed here in the original Pilgrims, in the original colonies. Most of them actually died from disease, malnutrition, etc. But they came here with the idea of a better life. Less religious persecution was their first reasons for being here. Teddy Roosevelt later on founded the Rough Riders, some of the most feared fighting forces that graced the time period. You had World War I and World War II. World War II in particular, just because it's been so close that in terms of historical value. But World War II, we didn't want to get involved. America didn't want to get involved in the European War. And what ended up happening is they actually, the Europeans were actually losing until we stepped in. And the Great War Machine took over. And in terms of, talking about America and everything, that we've been referred to as the sleeping giant. You don't want to wake the sleeping giant. And these are values that as soon as we got on board, as soon as America decided to get into, for whatever reason, but as soon as we decided to get into the war, that entirely changed. We had people signing up from all over. They were going off. In fact, we had so many men going off to war that our women had to step up to the plate, and they did it amazingly. Rosie the Riveter, as an example, they stepped up and took over for the men that were going off to war. And, you know, it's the American spirit of tenacity, of desiring freedom for everyone in this world that has made America, has helped to make America the shining beacon example of freedom throughout the entire world, and has made this country, realistically, the greatest that this earth has ever seen. But those 7 core values, and I'll say them again: courage, optimism, self-reliance, authenticity, honor, duty, heart. If you look at those, you can take a look at people who are dealing with things today. Dan Bongino, he has got the courage. He's built himself self-reliance. He is authentic. He's got honor, his duty. He's got the heart to go in and fight. He created Rumble for some of the tech stuff as an alternative platform to YouTube when YouTube started cutting things off. You've got the founders of Parler, and I know Dan Bongino was part of that. You've got the founder of Gab. You've got, all of these different people who are starting to, and have been, even though they've been in the shadows, they've been standing up to some of the big tech's oppressive tyrants, and they're standing up to these people. You have to have courage. You have to have optimism. You have to have a level of self-reliance. And believe it or not, authenticity goes a long way. I mean, just take a look at like CNN, for an example. They've been caught lying, and so is MSNBC and everything else. And you've got to have an authentic value. You've got to have honor. You've got to have a duty for doing what must be done. And you've got to have heart. You know, a lot of the patriots that are out there that are doing what they do because they love what they're doing, even including myself. I'm not lumping myself in as like the high-end people, but the whole reason why I started this channel is because I wanted to have a voice to talk about the American values system and the things that I saw that were going against those American values, and to bring back things like the Institute on the Constitution, to talk about the Constitution and the Founding Fathers and our government founding, because it's been a loss that we've had because of the educational system and how the educational leftists have driven our education topics and everything. They've driven out U.S. history. They've modified it. They've warped it. You can't even really talk about some of the things that have happened. And yes, some of it is ugly. Not going to deny that. But the fact is, you got to talk about it in the same light, not the 1619 Project light, where it's warped and it makes you think that, oh, it's all white supremacy. It's not white supremacy. There is a group of, yes, they were mostly white. They possibly all white. They came over here, and all they wanted was freedom and liberty, the same freedom and liberty that we are fighting for today. We've got a group of truckers up in Ottawa right now in Canada that are showing more gumption for freedom and what I would consider American values. They're Canadian values too, because they are a sister country of ours. So taking these 7 core values and turning them into what essentially are 10 principles to live by, the code of the West. Listen to these. Number 1, live each day with courage. Number 2, take pride in your work. Number 3, always finish what you start. Number 4, do what has to be done. Number 5, be tough but fair. Number 6, when you make a promise, keep it. Number 7, ride for the brand. Number 8, talk less and say more. Number 9, remember that some things aren't for sale. And number 10, know where to draw the line. Those 10 principles were derived out of the 7 core values that define America, according to James P. Owens. And I got to tell you, I agree with him. I totally agree with him on a lot of these, and pretty much, I mean, when you start digging into it, like I said, go check out episode 32. Because to be completely honest with you, our values have changed. Society has changed and has turned us into, or is attempting to turn us into something that America is not. These core principles that define America are prevalent and can be found in every single thing throughout our history. We were the first country to have the courage to get rid of slavery. We were the first country to have the courage to give women the right to vote. We still stand on those values to promote equality, not equity, but equality in the workplace. We stand up for the little guy. We stand up for what is right and just. We believe in a lot of cases justice is blind, and that she's holding those scales and she's totally blinded because we believe that everybody needs to get a fair shake. We believe that if you come to our borders in terms of conservative values, you come to our borders, we will help you. But we're not going to give you everything. We're going to help you succeed in America. See, the difference between equity and equality is basically equality means that everybody's equal at the starting line and that you make the best of whatever you have in terms of opportunities, skills, knowledge, understanding. These things are what you would use in order to make a better life for yourself. The equity is to go and take whatever is there and make everybody equal at the finish line. So those that are making more money get money taken away from them. Those that are more beneficial, those that are benefiting from things like athletic skill and everything else, those are all taken. I covered this at one point. Go read Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. It's a short 10-minute, 15-minute read. It is an awesome allegory of what equity actually is. And I wouldn't put it past somebody to actually try some of this crap in the current state that we're in. But the reason why I bring up these points and the reason why I'm bringing up these core values to America and the Code of the West, we're coming up to an existential moment in history. The 2022 elections are probably going to be one of the most contested. And I know a lot of people are talking about 2020 and they're still saying there's like fraud there, and we're still trying to figure all that stuff out. But to be completely honest, 2022 is going to be, I believe, a defining line. Because of the fact that all intents and purposes, everything is being pointed toward a great conservative wave, that we're going to take a lot of these leftists, we're going to get rid of them, we're going to get them out of office and so on and so forth. The anti-American representatives that are always pushing these things, the rhinos who are actually more anti-American because they're a snake in the grass. We know about the ones that clearly hold their anti-American shields up, but the ones that act as your friend and then vote against you later, it's basically set right now to be able to get rid of that. And we've got to keep that momentum going. We need to stand up to these tyrants. We need to stand up, not as individuals, but as a group. And you need to honestly feel good about making the choice for the right thing. Because as my father once told me one time, the path to being right is not always the downhill slope or the easy flat slope. It has mountains in the way. And those kinds of mountains are what we have to climb and overcome. We've become, honestly, a little soft and a little complacent in our livelihoods. in today's day and age with all of this technology, but we have to learn to stand up. We have to learn to be the cowboy, to do what's right when nobody's looking, to do what is ethically and morally and deals with your integrity. We have to do this. This is what we must do as conservatives. We must do what is right regardless of, honestly, regardless of personal cost, because that's what our founding fathers did. You want embodiment of America? Look at the founding fathers. These men knew that they were going up against the greatest military might in the world at the time. And they literally thumbed their noses at him because it was right. Rather than be subjugated, they wanted to live free. And that was their dream, was to live free. These people that come here from Cuba and Venezuela and all of these other communist countries, if you actually listen to these people when they get an opportunity to talk, one of them was talking at the 2020 election when Donald Trump was named the Republican nominee. If you actually looked at that speech, at the transcript, and actually felt those words, right now in our history, we are on the cusp. We are on the edge, the precipice of deciding whether or not America is going to continue as she has for the 250 years plus that we've been here, or is she going to tumble down and stumble and fall into the communist pit? Not on my watch. I don't want to do that. That's what this channel is about. That's what I'm trying to bring to you. These are the messages that I'm trying to bring to America. I am a very, 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 very small voice in the darkness. But if I can light a small amount of light and somebody else stands up and joins me and lights their light, and the next person does it, and the next, and the next. Next thing you know, we've lit up the entire room. We've lit up the house. We've lit up the country. We've lit up the world. And it's these kinds of things we have to band together. We have to be a part of something greater than ourselves, but have the courage to do it. To have the courage, be that one, like Dan Bongino said on one of his shows, to be that guy that stood up and danced so that you could inspire the next person to stand up and dance. We need to do that together, as a whole, as a people. And I am going to tell you right now, it is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. We cannot, in any sense of the word, fall under the fallacy that we can stop pushing once things start getting a little better, because that's how they've done it. We as conservatives have a habit of, you know what? You've already gotten to it. We've done what we needed to do, and we're going to stop. We can't stop anymore. We cannot wait. We cannot stop until this is vanquished in our country. We cannot just quit. Good enough is no longer good enough. You want great? We got to continue. We got to push. We got to keep going. We've got to make it so that this country becomes the great country that I know it can be, that it has been in the past. The changes that we make have to be for the betterment of all people, not just certain individuals. And for those leftists out there who sit there and call you names, who cares? They mean nothing. It's their thoughts don't matter. What matters is what you think of yourselves. But we can't let them win. You are giving them the power by backing down when they sit there and call you you're a racist. You're not a racist. I think that's been proven multiple times, over and over and over again. I mean, just look at Joy Reid. Joy Reid hates white people. I'm fairly certain of it just by her actions. Don Lemon is kind of on the same boat. You know, Morgan Freeman, when he talks about race, Morgan Freeman says, quit talking about it. He's quoted as saying that. He did that on a 60 Minutes interview with Mike Wallace. He talked about how race should not be defined anymore. There's no black man. There's no white man. There is only Americans. And if we can all band together, if we can all get together and stand up in one voice, I guarantee you that minority voice that has been hitting us for the last 20 years, 15 years, whatever it's been, it's going to go away. But we have to stand together. So, how do we do that? Plain and simple. Take these 7 core values. Take them into your heart, into yourself. Start living every single day by those core values and by the code of the West. Always finish what you start. Take pride in what you do and who you are. Live each day with courage. Be tough, but fair. Be fair. Well, I'm not talking about being a total jackass here. Be fair about it, but be firm. Be strong. Be tough. When you make a promise, keep it. Ride for the brand. Ride for America. She is worthy of our praise, love, and attention. She's been far too long been not tended to. When you see that flag raise, join in. Take your hat off. In my case, because I'm a veteran, I've earned the right to salute that flag, and I'm going to go ahead and do it every day. I do it every day when I put up my flag here at the studio. Talk less, but say more. Don't get into shouting matches with these people. It's not going to work. But don't forget to hit them with truth and facts. Get the facts and truth on your side first before you start taking these people out, because they shrink in front of facts. Someone who lies will try to use all kinds of different ways to get you to trip up. But as long as you stay with the truth and with the facts, and you have that on your side, you're going to be good. You'll be fine. But stick with it. Don't fall into that whole emotional, thing. Don't fall into the thing, well, you're a racist, and then you all of a sudden get flustered. No. Stick with your facts. Stick with the evidence. Stick with what you have. Remember that some things aren't for sale. Your integrity is not for sale. America's integrity is not for sale. Your heart, your values are not for sale. You have to remember that. And for anybody who is on your list in your local county or whatever else, dig into your representatives. And I'm not talking about just look at the D or the R by their name, because a lot of people go through that and they automatically assume a Democrat versus a Republican in terms of the problem. No, dig into their voting, dig into their history, listen to them, actually talk to them. And it's most important to do at the local level as much as it is up in the federal level. Everybody talks about it's the federal level and the state levels and the senators, and they're the ones that no, it's the local level people that really count, that really matter. You got to start digging into those. Politics is a dirty, dirty business. It really is. But Teddy Roosevelt talked about politics in one of his speeches, and I got to tell you, politics is America's. It's where we make our laws, we make our changes. Get involved at school boards. Get involved in the community. Be there for your community. Don't just shrink from this. This is not, we're in war right now. It's not a physical battle. It's not a battle of, blood and guts and everything else. But if we don't keep going at this, it may eventually get there. So we've got to start now. And we can't back off. We have got to keep going. Know where to draw the line. Your integrity is at risk. America's integrity is at risk. And we've got to know where to draw that line. Those changes and some of the things that these people are trying to make, no. They're against American values. They are against what we believe in and what we stand for. And we've got to know where to draw that line. This has been a jam-packed episode. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of you people who have come here to watch this episode. And I definitely thank everyone who has taken the time to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed so far and you like the content, please subscribe. I'm not going to necessarily talk about YouTube. Go over to Rumble. Subscribe on Rumble. Rumble is the free speech alternative to YouTube. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how long YouTube is going to keep me around. They probably don't even care about me because my numbers are so small. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. A small voice can become a big voice. If you like what I'm doing, please go to Rumble, subscribe. Follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I mean, it's been going right down here. It's been going down here this entire time. And if you get the opportunity, actually, no, don't even if, not even if, when you get the opportunity, download the True Grit Radio Network app and start listening to real, roots, authentic Americana music. And not only that, but if you're lucky enough and you stay up late, you can hit my show on Sunday night, Saturday morning, or excuse me, Saturday night, Sunday morning, flip that around, and listen to me from 10 to midnight Pacific or midnight till 2 on the East Coast. And that's it for the Whiskey Musing broadcast. Do me a favor, please, whatever you do, live each day with courage, live each day as an American, and take those 7 core values to heart. And that's all I have for tonight. We'll see you next time on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Good night, everyone.